physical therapy with the top 5 tips to prevent ACL tears and ACL reconstruction. In this video, you will learn 5 ways that are pretty simple to follow through with to prevent having an ACL tear, which is for any athlete or anybody is not a good thing. Please feel free again to add any comments or questions you have at any time, even topics for next week that you want to talk about, or please even type where you're watching from so I can know who my audience is and where my reach is going. So I wanted to go over first the anatomy of the ACL. So I have a knee model here, okay? And we have the kneecap, we have the quadricep that comes over the front of the knee, okay? We have the kneecap, so it's called the patella tendon and the quad tendon. But if we were to take the kneecap aside, we're gonna have the anterior and posterior cruciate ligaments. Cruciate meaning cross. What the ACL does and the PCL, it gives you stability. And then we also have the medial collateral ligament, which is a ligament on the inside, lateral collateral ligament, which gives you side-to-side stability. Those are your static stabilizers. The next ones are your dynamic stabilizers. These are muscles, tendons that surround the joint, for example, the quads, the hamstrings, the adductors, the glutes, the calves, everything around the knee. A few common facts about ACL tears. Most commonly are torn during sports that involve sudden stops, changes in direction, like basketball, tennis, or soccer, anything in which you change direction. And it's always during the deceleration phase, it's always on the landing. ACL is never torn with the push-off or acceleration part of a motion. It's always torn with the deceleration and with cutting, stopping, and pivoting, the landing, the shock absorption. So that is the biggest thing that we see is that athletes do not have good shock absorbers. I'm going to go into this later on with my 5 tips. Basically, they don't have the adductor strength, they don't have the glute strength, really to, especially the adductor strength, which is your shock absorber. ACL injures about 1 to 200,000 people per year, and women are 2 to 10 times as likely to tear their ACL than men. Not a good statistic. So women out there, please listen up. This is super important. And what happens if you get an ACL tear? Well, you're going to hear a pop or you feel a pop. Some people say it sounds like a gunshot. It sounds really, really loud. The knee will give way and it's going to feel really unstable, kind of wonky. And the knee will swell up significantly over the next few hours because as the ACL bleeds and causes swelling. Now, if you do tear your ACL, you're going to need surgery, which is a 9 to 12 month recovery. 9 to 12 months. That's an enormous amount of time. So please listen up to what I'm going to go through with you. Without an ACL, the knee, the femur and the tibia will shift back and forth, grind away at your meniscus. Meniscus is gone. You'll be needing knee replacement at some time. So here we go. My 5 safety tips for knee safety to avoid a 9 to 12 month recovery period. Number 1, we need to find your starting point. We need a top-notch assessment by a professional that knows where you are starting at. This can be a physical therapist, this can be a trainer. Ideally, I'm a physical therapist, so I'm going to say you would want to go see a physical therapist, but an athletic trainer, a personal trainer can really get some good assessments from where you're at. And then once we find where we're at, then we know where we want to go. So number 1, find your starting point. You've heard me say this many times before, but I can't even tell you how many times throughout the day that I see that this is a big issue. Number 2, not any less important though, is a core conditioning program. We need to find the correct starting point and start the core conditioning program from that point. We need to address the abdominals by doing posterior pelvic tilts, by doing transverse abdominis contractions. Simple things, we have to start with a good foundation first. Never jump right to a plank. We need to find your starting point, see what needs to be worked on before we can address the plank. We need to work the glute max, which is the most important muscle in the body, the low back, and the glute medius muscle, which is a stabilizer. So we need to start off by doing mat exercises on your back, which seem boring, but I'm telling you, that's how we develop a good foundation. If you don't start with this foundation, you're going to get hurt. And I believe all injuries are predictable, especially an ACL tear, predictable. After completing the mat exercises, then you can progress to more advanced exercises. One of the things that drives me absolutely crazy is, why am I going to have someone go to an exercise that's flashy or too advanced when they've missed the basics? Why am I going to do a one-legged exercise when I can't even do a two-legged exercise correctly? Meaning a squat with both legs versus a lunge. Number 3 that I want to work on is I want to work on the mobility program and movement patterns. Crucial, crucial, crucial. Now that we have a good starting point, now that we've started the core conditioning program, we need to foam roll the major muscle groups. We need to foam roll the thoracic spine, the lats, the pecs, the glutes, the quads, the calves. We need to foam roll those and start to work through and start to learn some better movement patterns. Number 4, crucial, strengthening program. Everybody, I don't care if you're an athlete, not an athlete, everybody should be doing strengthening exercises no matter what. Runners especially. People who just run, most of them that I happen to know are always injured because they don't do a strengthening program. They don't feel that that's important. They want to just run. Well, especially to prevent an ACL tear, we need to do a strengthening program. Starting with the larger muscle groups, working proximal, by that I mean working along the core and distally. Working along the core and distally down your legs. The biggest mistake I see is when people start to do one-legged exercises, lunges and jumpings before mastering the two-legged exercise with explicit proper form. A big mistake I see is people focusing on the feet, balancing exercises. That should be the last thing that we have people do. So no lunges, no jumping, focusing on the core, focusing on proximal, then moving distally. It must include, then once we've done the mat exercises, we got the two-legged exercises, then we can focus on weight-bearing exercises. But before we do that, what do we need to do? We activate the transverse abdominis, we activate the abs and the back. You've heard me talk a lot about the fuse box. We need to activate the fuse box, meaning that all the muscles along your core, including your neck, your abdominals, your low back, and your glutes, we have to activate those by doing some examples are the Todd squat with different variations that I have, and other exercises to activate the abdominal muscles like the happy puppy, or otherwise known as the dead bug, or transverse abdominal marching, the Superman exercise. Great ones to start with. Then we want to focus on the upper body fuse box. We want to focus on the neck retractors. We want to focus on the shoulder blade because, believe it or not, the neck is super important even to the ACL. Because if we were to lose everything up over here, we lose everything from the body down. So we cannot forget about the neck. But by doing the upper body fuse box, we're going to work on the physio ball exercises and some different foam roll ones in which we do a wrap and a reach, contracting the lats, contracting the scapular depressors. You can see those in other videos. And another thing is TRX. I'm a huge fan of the TRX, which we have right over here. TRX. I really believe that everybody should have a TRX in their home because every exercise with the TRX works your core. And the fifth thing that I think is real important for all athletes, maybe some of you hadn't heard this, is we need to teach people how to fall. We need to teach you how to fall when you're going to lose your balance, so you kind of roll with it. Kind of like when you're going to go into martial arts, everybody needs to learn how to fall. Every athlete should learn how to do that because, as I see, is that people get hurt on the deceleration phase of things. The stopping, it's never on the acceleration. So we need to teach people how to land properly. So hopefully this was helpful. I like doing these 10-minute quick talks with a few different tips. Hopefully this was helpful to you. Share it to your page, share it with a friend, tag someone, and please comment here with any questions or any comments that you may have, and just maybe where are you at, where are you calling from. So thank you again for tuning in. Please tune in for next week, 6:30, same time. Excited to be here with you. Todd Houghton, Todd H at HoughtonPhysicalTherapy.com. Have a great night.